The sea whispers at night. Its voice is soft, yet endless, like breath from the ancient deep. Shadows drift across the horizon, carrying secrets untold. Some say the ocean remembers every story ever lived. Some say it hides wonders too vast for human eyes. But there is one tale the waves never let go. A flame burning beneath the waters, eternal and bright. A paradox born in silence, guarded by the sea itself. The fishermen speak of it in hushed tones. The children dream of it when they fall asleep. Even the winds seem to carry its song across the coast. They call it the flame of Poseidon, not of destruction, but of balance, not of fear, but of mystery. It lives in the abyss, where light cannot enter. It sings in the tides, where time has no end. And tonight, you will follow its path. Step into the story carried by the waves. Step into the legend written in salt and flame. This is the beginning of the abyss' eternal flood. This is the voice of the ocean, and it calls to you. The village rested by the shore, quiet beneath the silver glow of the moon. Its houses leaned close together, built of stone and salt-worn wood. Nights were calm, yet never silent, for the sea always spoke. The tide rose and fell, carrying a rhythm older than memory. But sometimes, in the stillest hours, a different sound arrived. It was not the cry of gulls, nor the crash of waves. It was softer, drifting like a song carried by unseen lips. The villagers called it the whisper of the tides. Children would press their ears to the sand, hoping to hear. Elders warned them not to listen too long, for dreams might follow. The melody was sweet, yet strange, weaving wonder with unease. Those who heard it swore the ocean was alive, calling to them. No one knew what words it carried, only that it lingered. It seemed to echo from far below, beyond the reach of light. Fishermen said the sound rose from the deepest trench. They told stories of Poseidon's secret flame hidden there, a fire that burned beneath the waters, unseen yet eternal. The song, they believed, was its breath escaping the abyss. On nights when the moon was brightest, the whispers grew clearer. They floated over rooftops, sliding into windows, curling into dreams. Some dreamt of oceans filled with stars instead of waves. Others saw doors opening beneath the sea, glowing with blue light. No dream was ever the same, yet all felt connected. A hidden thread wove through each vision, tying them together. The villagers feared and loved the sound in equal measure. It promised wonder, yet reminded them of the unknown below. Few dared to speak of it during daylight, fearing misfortune. Yet at night, when the air grew still, they listened again. There was a boy who sat by the cliffs, listening every night. He believed the sea was telling him a story meant only for him. He did not fear the voice, though others warned him to stop. To him, the whisper was not dangerous, but comforting. It was like a lullaby sung from the heart of the deep. One evening, the song grew stronger, swelling like a tide. The boy closed his eyes, and the sound filled his chest. He felt warmth, though the night air was cold and sharp. He thought he saw light flickering beneath the black waves. It was faint, but steady, as if a flame danced underwater. His heart raced, yet his spirit calmed at once. He whispered back to the sea, though no words came. Only breath, only wonder, carried into the night. From that day, he dreamed every night of the abyss. The song lingered in his mind like a secret melody. He told no one, but his eyes shone with quiet fire. The elders noticed, though they said nothing aloud. They had seen that look before, long ago in other faces. Faces of those who vanished at sea chasing whispers. Yet the boy's spirit was different, softer, curious, not greedy. And so the village watched in silence, waiting for his fate. The whisper of the tides was no longer just a mystery. It had chosen a listener, and perhaps a messenger. For in every legend, there comes a moment of awakening. The sea does not call without reason, nor sing without purpose. And in the boy's heart, the first thread of destiny was tied. The flame of Poseidon stirred, unseen, yet alive. And the ocean's voice grew louder, ready to reveal its tale. Far beyond the shore, the sea deepened into silence. There lay the abyss, darker than night, endless and still. Sailors spoke of it with lowered voices, eyes fixed on the floor. They called it the silent abyss, a place no man could tame. It stretched downward farther than anyone could measure or dream. No sunlight reached its walls, no warmth touched its heart. The water there was heavy, pressing with unseen weight. Those who sailed above swore they felt eyes watching them. Birds avoided the waters, circling but never daring to dive. Fish swam wide around the trench, as if obeying an ancient law. Even the wind softened, falling quiet when passing overhead. It was a place untouched, hidden and fiercely guarded. Legends said it was the doorway to Poseidon's throne. Others believed it was a prison for forgotten spirits of the sea. But the oldest tales spoke of the eternal flame hidden there. A fire that burned without air, without fuel, without end. Impossible yet undeniable, for the whispers of the tides confirmed it. The abyss was not merely empty. It was alive with mystery. Every ripple above hinted at a pulse deep below. Some nights the water shivered, as though something stirred beneath. The villagers who watched from the cliffs held their breath. They feared what moved in the darkness, yet longed to know. For curiosity is stronger than fear, and wonder stronger than silence. Once, a daring captain sent anchors into the abyss. He hoped to measure its depth, to prove it was endless. But the ropes broke, cut clean, as though by unseen hands. The sea swallowed his tools, and the silence returned. He left the shore and never sailed again. Others tried, but none returned with answers. Only silence. The abyss resisted all who sought to unravel it. And yet, the whispers always returned, singing of fire below. The song rose like bubbles, breaking the surface with mystery. It was said Poseidon himself breathed through that melody. He guarded the flame not with chains, but with silence. A silence more powerful than thunder, more binding than stone. The abyss was his temple, his hidden sanctuary of balance. Those who dreamed of the flame often woke trembling. For in their visions, the abyss opened like a mouth, not to devour, but to reveal light within shadow. They spoke of vast halls carved of crystal and water. They saw a glow that flickered without smoke, without ash. Blue fire, alive and eternal, dancing where no flame should. It was beautiful, yet frightening, for it defied all law. The silent abyss became both a warning and a promise. The promise of wonder, the warning of forgetting balance. The sea gave, but it also withheld. The abyss reminded mortals they were guests upon its surface. To dive too deep was to risk losing more than breath. But still, the boy who listened at night remembered the whispers. He dreamed not of fear, but of discovery and peace. When he looked at the horizon, he saw not emptiness. He saw a path leading into the heart of silence. The abyss was waiting, patient, eternal, watching. It held secrets not meant for greed, but for truth. The silent abyss, darker than shadow, deeper than time. And within it, the flame of Poseidon burned unseen. A paradox, hidden where no hand could reach. A light sleeping inside endless darkness. calling quietly to the world. Far beyond the shore, the sea deepened into silence. There lay the abyss, darker than night, endless and still. Sailors spoke of it with lowered voices, eyes fixed on the floor. They called it the silent abyss, a place no man could tame. It stretched downward farther than anyone could measure or dream. No sunlight reached its walls, no warmth touched its heart. The water there was heavy, pressing with unseen weight. Those who sailed above swore they felt eyes watching them. Birds avoided the waters, circling but never daring to dive. Fish swam wide around the trench, as if obeying an ancient law. Even the wind softened, falling quiet when passing overhead. It was a place untouched, hidden, and fiercely guarded. Legends said it was the doorway to Poseidon's throne. Others believed it was a prison for forgotten spirits of the sea. But the oldest tales spoke of the eternal flame hidden there. A fire that burned without air, without fuel, without end. Impossible, yet undeniable. For the whispers of the tides confirmed it. The abyss was not merely empty. It was alive with mystery. Every ripple above hinted at a pulse deep below. Some nights the water shivered, as though something stirred beneath. The villagers who watched from the cliffs held their breath. They feared what moved in the darkness, yet longed to know. For curiosity is stronger than fear, and wonder stronger than silence. Once, a daring captain sent anchors into the abyss. He hoped to measure its depth, to prove it was endless. But the ropes broke, cut clean, as though by unseen hands. The sea swallowed his tools, and the silence returned. He left the shore and never sailed again. Others tried, but none returned with answers, only silence. The abyss resisted all who sought to unravel it. And yet, the whispers always returned, singing of fire below. The song rose like bubbles, breaking the surface with mystery. It was said Poseidon himself breathed through that melody. He guarded the flame not with chains, but with silence. A silence more powerful than thunder, more binding than stone. The abyss was his temple, his hidden sanctuary of balance. Those who dreamed of the flame often woke trembling. For in their visions, the abyss opened like a mouth, not to devour, but to reveal light within shadow. They spoke of vast halls carved of crystal and water. They saw a glow that flickered without smoke, without ash. Blue fire, alive and eternal, dancing where no flame should. It was beautiful, yet frightening, for it defied all law. The silent abyss became both a warning and a promise. The promise of wonder, the warning of forgetting balance. The sea gave, but it also withheld. The abyss reminded mortals they were guests upon its surface. To dive too deep was to risk losing more than breath. But still, the boy who listened at night remembered the whispers. He dreamed not of fear, but of discovery and peace. When he looked at the horizon, he saw not emptiness. He saw a path leading into the heart of silence. The abyss was waiting, patient, eternal, watching. It held secrets not meant for greed, but for truth. The silent abyss, darker than shadow, deeper than time. And within it, the flame of Poseidon burned unseen. A paradox, hidden where no hand could reach. A light sleeping inside endless darkness, calling quietly to the world. Deep within the abyss, where light could never reach, a secret burned. It was not a star, though it shimmered with endless glow. It was not a torch, though it carried the warmth of fire. It was the eternal flame, Poseidon's most hidden and sacred treasure. Born from paradox, it burned beneath waters colder than night. Its fire was blue, steady, silent, alive without smoke or ash. It danced like a living spirit, yet it did not consume. The flame breathed within the sea as though it belonged there. For centuries, it had glowed in the dark with tireless strength. It was the breath of balance, the heart of Poseidon's ocean. Without it, the waves would rage without calm, storms without rest. Without it, silence would stretch forever, drowning life in stillness. The eternal flame was not destruction, but harmony incarnate. It kept water and fire united, two opposites made as one. The abyss became its temple, its walls carved by time and tide. Crystal formations grew around it, glittering with borrowed light. Each shard reflected the flame, scattering blue glows into the dark. To gaze upon it was to forget fear, to remember awe. Even the creatures of the deep swam gently around its chamber. Sharks passed in silence, whales drifted slower, jellyfish pulsed with calm. All life felt its rhythm, as though the flame beat like a heart. Poseidon guarded it, not with chains, but with respect and stillness. He knew that no cage could hold something born of paradox. The flame was not his to own, but his to protect. Mortals who dreamed of it thought of power, riches, or endless fire. But the truth was softer, stranger, greater than their desires. The flame gave no weapons, no wealth, no crowns to kings. It gave only clarity, reminding all who saw of balance. Some said it was a gift from the dawn of creation. Others whispered it was born from Poseidon's first breath. But the oldest songs claimed it was older than gods themselves. They said it came from the first union of sky and sea. The flame was a memory of that beginning, kept alive forever. And though it burned in silence, it spoke through the tides. Its whispers carried to shores, weaving songs into mortal dreams. That was the voice the boy had begun to hear at night. He did not know the source, only the wonder it carried. But Poseidon knew the boy's heart, and the flame stirred gently. For the flame did not call to greed, but to purity. It sought a listener, not a conqueror, to share its truth. The abyss shimmered faintly, as if answering the boy's longing. Blue sparks drifted upward, unseen, brushing against the currents. The sea carried them outward, weaving them into the whispers of waves. Above, the boy stood by the cliffs, feeling warmth in the wind. He dreamed of light beneath water, though he had never seen it. He dreamed of fire that did not burn, yet glowed eternal. And with every dream, the flame grew brighter in the abyss, not in size, but in song, echoing stronger through the ocean. It hummed with a melody that even the stars seemed to hear. The eternal flame was not hidden by accident, but by purpose. It was never meant to be stolen, never meant to be feared. It was meant to remind mortals and gods of harmony. That even in deepest dark, light survives. That even in endless waters, fire can live. And that balance, fragile yet eternal, is the true power of the sea. So the flame continued to burn, unseen, untouched, waiting for the one who would seek not power, but truth. The eternal flame of Poseidon, heart of the abyss, keeper of balance. On nights when the wind fell silent, the sea began to sing. It was not the crash of waves, nor the cry of distant birds. It was a melody, soft and endless, drifting across the dark horizon. The villagers called it the Song of the Flame. They said it rose from the abyss where the eternal fire burned. Its notes shimmered like silver threads woven through the night air. Sometimes the song was faint, like a whisper fading with the tide. Other times it grew strong, echoing as though the sea itself breathed. No instrument could match it. No voice could truly follow. The sound was neither human nor divine, yet it held both. It carried warmth, as though fire spoke in the language of water. Children dreamed easily when the song floated through their windows. They dreamed of oceans made of light, where stars swam like fish. Old men wept quietly, feeling memories long forgotten return to them. Women humming to their children found their lullabies touched by it. The whole village lived by its rhythm, though none dared to admit it. The boy by the cliffs listened longer than anyone else. For him, the melody was more than mystery. It was invitation. Each note seemed to call him closer, as if the sea knew his name. Sometimes he felt the vibration in his chest like a second heartbeat. Other times it filled his mind with colors he had never seen. Blue brighter than skies, gold deeper than fire, white softer than clouds. He could not speak of it, for words were too small. Only silence, only listening, allowed him to understand its meaning. And yet, the song was not only for him, but for all. Travelers who passed the coast heard it and never forgot. Some said it gave courage to face storms. Others claimed it healed hearts broken by grief. The song was different for each listener, shaping itself to their soul. It was not a single melody, but many woven together. A chorus of flame and tide, harmony born from paradox. The villagers often feared it, yet they never wished it gone. For even fear was softened by beauty too great to ignore. On moonlit nights, the waters shimmered as if singing with the flame. Waves rolled gently, glowing faintly, as though touched by starlight. The boy believed the ocean itself was alive, dreaming out loud. Perhaps Poseidon allowed the flame to speak so mortals would remember. Remember the balance, the gift hidden within silence. The song never commanded and never demanded. It simply existed. It was not a call to war, but a call to wonder. One evening, the boy brought a shell to his ear. Instead of hearing the sea, he heard the flame's song, clearer, closer, as if the abyss had moved within reach. The melody wrapped around him, filling his thoughts with peace. He did not feel small before it. He felt whole, as if he too was part of the ocean's eternal harmony. He whispered to himself, though no one could hear, "The flame is alive." And in that moment, the song swelled, brighter than ever before. The waves below glowed faintly, carrying sparks like drifting stars. The boy knew the sea had answered him, not with words, but with song. The song of the flame was not just a legend, but a living truth. It was the breath of balance, the hymn of Poseidon's eternal fire. And as long as the flame burned in the abyss, the song would never fade. The boy's dreams grew stronger as the song filled his nights with wonder. He began to see visions that danced between sleep and waking. Oceans of light shimmered in his mind, endless and alive. The flame burned there, bright yet calm, as if waiting for him. He walked in dreamscapes where waves glowed like rivers of stars. Fish swam like sparks, and whales drifted as if made of fire. Each night the visions deepened, more vivid, more real than the last. He did not tell the villagers, for fear they would not understand. They already whispered that he lingered too long by the cliffs. They said the sea had claimed his heart more than the land. But the boy did not care, for the visions were his secret. In them, he felt closer to the truth the song carried. One night, he dreamed of the abyss itself. It was not darkness, but a cathedral carved by water and time. Blue light shimmered through crystal walls, reflecting endlessly. And at the center, the eternal flame burned, alive and waiting. Its glow touched him, wrapping his body in warmth without fire. He reached out his hand, and the flame did not resist. It flickered like a greeting, as if it knew his soul. He awoke with the sound of the ocean roaring in his ears. The cliffs seemed to pulse beneath his feet, alive with song. The sea smelled sharper, saltier, as though speaking to him. That morning, he carried water from the shore in a jar. When he held it close, it shimmered faintly with blue spark. He blinked, thinking it a trick of sunlight, but the glow stayed. It faded when others approached, as if hiding from their eyes. Only he could see it. Only he could feel it. The flame had chosen him, though he did not yet know why. His heart was restless, his spirit drawn outward to the waves. Each night, the dreams called him deeper into their glowing currents. He dreamed of voices older than gods, whispering truths untold. They spoke not in words, but in rhythm, in tide, in silence. The language of balance, carried in the flame's eternal hymn. Some nights he resisted, fearing what lay beyond his knowing. But the call was gentle, never demanding, always inviting. It was like the pull of the moon on the sea, inevitable, patient, and filled with promise of wonder. One night, the dream grew brighter than all before. The boy stood again in the abyssal cathedral. This time, the flame flickered into shapes of memory. He saw Poseidon, vast and stern, bowing before the fire. He saw creatures of the deep gathered in silence. He saw waves rising and calming at the flame's command. The vision was not history, but truth woven through time. The flame was not owned, not bound, but honored. When he reached out again, the flame surged brighter. It wrapped his dream form in a glow that felt like belonging. He awoke with tears on his cheeks, though he was not sad. They were tears of awe, of knowing he had touched eternity. The sea outside his window hummed as though in answer. The boy whispered to himself, "It is calling me." The wind shifted, carrying salt and song into his room. And in the abyss below, the eternal flame stirred gently. Its rhythm matched his heartbeat, one pulse, one truth. The boy did not yet know his journey had begun, but the dreams would guide him, step by step, toward the deep. The eternal flame of Poseidon had chosen a listener, and soon the sea itself would open its mysteries before him. The days that followed carried a strange stillness, as though the sea itself watched. The boy felt the weight of unseen eyes whenever he neared the cliffs. The waves seemed to whisper his name, not in sound, but in rhythm. He no longer dreamed of ordinary seas, but only of the abyss. Each dream showed him more of the cathedral, more of the flame. It was as if the ocean was preparing him for something vast. The villagers noticed the boy's distracted gaze, his wandering silences. They warned him not to linger too long by the shore. Old stories, half forgotten, spoke of those who followed sea songs. They vanished into the waves, never to return. But the boy was not afraid, for he felt no threat in the song. It was not a lure, but a call, gentle and patient. At dusk, he carried the glowing jar of seawater to the cliffs. In the fading light, he saw sparks flicker within the water again. They pulsed like tiny heartbeats, in time with the waves below. He whispered to the sea, asking if it heard him. And though no voice replied, the waves answered with glowing foam. That night, his dream was unlike any before. The flame grew so bright it filled every corner of the abyssal hall. From its glow stepped shapes made of water and fire. They were not human, nor beast, but something between both. Each form shimmered, alive yet silent, guardians of the eternal flame. They circled the boy, not with menace, but with curiosity. He felt no fear, only reverence, as they moved around him. One guardian placed its hand upon his chest, above his heart. He felt warmth spread, as if his heartbeat had joined the flame. The guardian's eyes shimmered like tide and ember, timeless and knowing. Without words, he understood their message. He had been chosen to hear, to carry, to protect. The song was no longer just for him, but through him. He awoke trembling, the echo of warmth still in his chest. When he looked outside, the sea glowed faintly with blue light. It stretched far across the horizon, as though the abyss had risen. The villagers gasped in awe, whispering of omens and wonders. The boy remained silent, knowing the glow was for him alone. In the following nights, the dreams gave him fragments of knowledge. He learned that the flame was more than fire or light. It was memory, older than gods, older than the sea itself. It held balance, the union of what should never meet. Water and fire, silence and song, stillness and movement. The flame endured because it belonged to all, not one. And now, it had shared itself with him. He was no master of it, no ruler of fire or sea. He was its witness, its vessel, its listener in the world above. The boy walked the village with new quietness in his step. Every sound seemed sharper, every color brighter, every silence deeper. He could hear the pulse of tides, even when inland. He could feel the flames hum in the air around him. Though he said nothing, the villagers sensed a change. They whispered of destiny, of blessings, of curses. But the boy paid no heed, for he knew truth lay in the sea. One evening, he returned to the cliffs once more. The waves seemed to part slightly, as though guiding his eyes. Far out in the distance, a line of light shimmered in the water. The abyss was no longer just a dream. It was calling him awake. The boy's heart beat faster, steady with the flame's rhythm. He knew the time was near when listening would no longer be enough. He would have to step beyond the shore, into the sea's embrace. The eternal flame had chosen him, and the journey was beginning. The boy rose before dawn, his heart heavy with both fear and wonder. The sea was calm, as if waiting for him in patient silence. The cliffs loomed above, but the horizon glowed faintly with blue fire. The villagers still slept, unaware of the boy's secret journey. He carried nothing but the shell that had sung the flame's song. It rested in his hand like a guide, warm, though it was empty. He walked to the shore, feeling the cold sand beneath his feet. The tide reached for him, curling gently around his ankles. It was not pull nor force, but invitation, soft and steady. The boy stepped deeper, the water climbing to his waist. Each wave shimmered faintly, glowing as if touched by starlight. He whispered to himself, "I am not afraid." And in truth, the fear was small beside the wonder inside him. The shell hummed gently, its vibrations syncing with his heartbeat. He closed his eyes and let the tide carry him farther. The water grew deeper, but it did not weigh him down. Instead, it lifted him, as though the sea itself bore him gently. He drifted away from the shore, past the reach of mortal eyes. Above, the stars dimmed, replaced by the endless blue beneath. He opened his eyes and found himself descending, though he had not sunk. The sea carried him downward, cradled like a child in arms. He did not choke, did not drown. His breath was steady. The flame's hum filled his chest, giving him strength to endure. Light shimmered around him, faint crystals glowing in the abyss. Fish of pale fire drifted past, leaving trails like falling stars. Whales sang deep notes that echoed like prayers across the water. The boy listened, feeling the music align with the flame's song. Down, deeper, until the abyss itself opened like a cathedral. Walls of crystal rose high, reflecting the flame's eternal glow. He had seen it in dreams, but now it was real. The eternal flame burned before him, alive and endless. Its blue fire swirled, not consuming, but breathing. It filled the abyss with warmth, though no heat reached his skin. The guardians of water and flame appeared once more. They circled him, their forms shifting like waves and sparks. One extended its hand, and the boy did not hesitate. He placed his hand within theirs, feeling the ocean pulse. In silence, knowledge poured into him, not as words, but as truth. He saw the birth of the flame, from sky and sea united. He saw Poseidon kneel, swearing to protect it forever. He saw mortals who dreamed of it, but none who truly listened. Until now. The flame flickered brighter, its song rising in clarity. The guardians bowed their heads, acknowledging the boy as chosen. The flame's voice was not sound, but rhythm within his soul. It told him of balance, of harmony between fire and water. It told him of the fragility of the world above, how storms would rage if balance were broken, how silence would drown all if fire were lost. And it told him he was now its witness, not to own, not to rule, but to carry its song. The boy knelt before the flame, not in fear, but in reverence. He whispered, "I will listen. I will carry." The eternal flame pulsed once, as if in blessing. The abyss glowed brighter, its walls shimmering like living glass. The boy felt a thread of fire settle within his heart. It did not burn, but it warmed, steady and eternal. The sea cradled him as if to say, "You are part of us now." Above, the horizon flickered faintly, though no villager could name why. The boy had stepped beyond the shore into the mystery of the abyss, and the eternal flame had given him its truth to carry forever. The boy lingered in the abyss, held by the song that bound water and fire. The eternal flame pulsed, steady as a heartbeat within the crystal walls. Its glow was not fierce, but patient, spreading warmth through the endless dark. He felt small, yet not powerless, as if part of something vast and sacred. The guardians hovered near, their forms neither solid nor fleeting, but eternal. Their eyes shimmered with depths of seas and sparks of stars. One guardian gestured toward the flame, urging him closer. The boy stepped forward, the ocean floor beneath him shifting like sand in dreams. As he neared, the flame rippled, arcs of light stretching toward his chest. It did not burn, but it revealed. Visions unfolded not as images, but as living truths wrapping around him. He saw islands forming, seas carving valleys, winds shaping mountains. He saw fire falling from the sky, merging with waters in harmony. Balance was always fragile, yet always restored by forces unseen. Then he saw mortals, their hands reaching, their eyes full of longing. They sought the flame not to honor, but to own. Some wished for its fire to conquer storms. Others wished to bury it deep, to silence its song. The boy felt their hunger echo through the ages like shadows in light. But the flame endured, waiting for one who would not seek control. It whispered again in rhythm, a language older than words. "You are listener. You are witness. You are vessel." The boy trembled, not in fear, but in awe of the task laid upon him. The guardians bowed their heads, as if sealing an oath unspoken. The flame reached deeper, touching his heart like tide on shore. A thread of light wove itself into his soul, soft and eternal. The boy gasped, not in pain, but in wonder at the weight of it. He whispered, "I will carry. I will not let it fade." The abyss brightened, as if stars had blossomed beneath the sea. Schools of glowing fish spiraled around him in radiant patterns. Their movements echoed the flame's rhythm, dancing to an eternal song. The whales sang again, their voices deeper, fuller, praising the bond made. The boy understood now. The flame was not his alone. It belonged to the sea, the sky, the stars, and all who lived. He was its guardian, but also its messenger, bound to remind the world. The guardians moved aside, clearing a path through the crystal abyss. It led upward, a tunnel of light, guiding him back toward the surface. The flame pulsed one last time, sending warmth through his chest. Its song softened, but it lingered, etched forever in his soul. The boy looked once more at the abyss, at its vast cathedral glow. He whispered a promise. I will remember. I will honor. Then the tide lifted him, drawing him gently upward like dawn from night. The journey was slow, each moment stretched like silence before song. Yet the water did not resist. It carried him with reverent ease. Crystals dimmed behind him, the abyss closing as though to rest again. Fish scattered, their lights fading, returning to the eternal dark. Still, the flame's rhythm pulsed within him, steady, unbroken. He rose through the deep, the pressure easing, stars reappearing above. At last, he broke the surface, breathless yet unharmed, the sea calm. The horizon glowed faintly, as though the abyss still whispered through waves. He lay upon the water, staring at the stars, hearing their silent rhythm. He knew he could never return unchanged, for the flame lived in him now. The boy was no longer only a seeker, but a bearer of eternity. And the world above would soon feel the presence of the flame again. The boy drifted back to shore, carried by waves gentle as a mother's hands. His eyes opened slowly, greeted by the dim light of dawn on the horizon. The village lay quiet still, its rooftops dark, smoke yet to rise from hearths. He lay on the sand, breath steady, feeling the flame's rhythm within his chest. It was no longer distant, but part of him, whispering softly, like tied to stone. The shell he once carried now shone faintly, warmed by the eternal fire inside. He closed his hand around it, sensing its hum match his heartbeat. The boy rose slowly, sand clinging to his skin, but his steps sure and calm. He turned toward the sea, its waves calm, as if watching him in silence. The horizon flickered faintly blue, though no villager would see its secret light. He walked back toward the village, unsure what awaited when he returned. Would they believe him if he spoke of the abyss and the flame? Would they laugh or fear, or turn away from truths too vast to hold? The boy knew words would never be enough to explain what he carried. For the flame's song was not sound, but feeling, beyond the grasp of language. Still, he had promised to carry, to witness, to remind the world above. So he entered the village, quiet as morning mist, heart heavy with purpose. The first villager he saw was an elder, seated by the well, eyes half closed. The elder looked at him strangely, sensing something changed, though nothing showed. The boy bowed slightly, and the elder nodded as if understanding without words. He moved on, past houses waking, doors opening, fires kindling in silence. Children ran with laughter, chasing the wind, their joy unbroken by unseen truths. The boy watched them, wondering if they too would hear the flame someday. He reached his own home, where his mother stood, her face lined with worry. She rushed to him, her arms warm, her voice breaking with relief. Where were you, my child? The sea could have taken you. He held her gently, whispering. The sea gave. It did not take. She did not understand, but she saw something different in his eyes. No fear, no shame, only calm as deep as the ocean itself. She held him longer, then released him, though questions still lingered. The boy sat by the fire, the shell glowing faintly in his palm. He stared at it, hearing whispers of flame, ocean, and eternal balance. He knew the world would not feel its truth unless he spoke. But he also knew not all hearts were ready to listen. The flame had warned him. Some would seek to use, not to honor. Some would twist its gift into hunger, into greed, into storms. The boy's task was not to reveal, but to remind gently, quietly. To carry the rhythm into stories, into silence, into life's small acts. So he began with his own breath, steady, calm, carrying the flame's pulse. Every word he spoke that day carried a softness, a rhythm unseen. Those who heard him felt lighter, though they could not name why. The village carried on, unaware of the abyss burning quietly in their midst. But the boy knew, the sea knew, and the flame within his heart would never fade, only guide. For he had crossed into the eternal and returned with its song. He would walk among mortals, yet carry a piece of Poseidon's gift. The abyss' eternal flame was alive in him, waiting for the world to hear. The boy grew older, yet the flame within him never dimmed, only deepened. Years passed like waves, each carrying whispers of the abyss he once entered. The villagers saw him change, though none could name the source of his calm. He spoke gently, and people listened, not knowing why their hearts felt lighter. Stories grew around him, tales of the sea favoring his steps and voice. Children gathered at his feet, asking for songs, and he gave them rhythms. They did not know the flame guided his words, shaping hope in silence. When storms came, he stood by the shore, and the winds bent away. The sea seemed to cradle him, the tide listening to his heartbeat. The people called him blessed, chosen, though he never claimed such a name. He remembered the abyss, the guardians, the cathedral of crystal and flame. He remembered Poseidon's silent vow to guard the eternal gift of balance. And he remembered his own whisper, I will carry, I will honor. So he lived not as a master, but as a keeper of rhythm. The flame inside did not demand worship, only remembrance through living truth. One night, under a sky heavy with stars, he walked again to the shore. The waves glowed faintly blue, as if the abyss reached up to greet him. He held the shell once more, its hum steady, mirroring the eternal flame. He closed his eyes and listened, and the sea answered in soft chorus. The guardians were near, though unseen, their presence like a breath on wind. He knew his journey was ending, yet not in sorrow, but in completion. The flame within him would not die, for it belonged to more than flesh. It would return to the sea, to the abyss, to the cathedral of light. He lay upon the sand, gazing at the stars, hearing their silent song. The tide reached for him gently, carrying his body like it once had before. But this time, it was not to lead him down, but to bring him home. The flame pulsed once in his chest, strong and eternal, then faded outward. It spread into the waves, into the winds, into the breath of the world. The villagers found him at dawn, his face calm, eyes closed in peace. The shell lay beside him, glowing faintly before it dimmed into silence. They did not understand, but they felt something vast had touched their shore. The sea sang that morning, soft and long, as though mourning yet celebrating. The villagers kept the shell, placing it at the heart of their shrine. They told stories of the boy who carried fire without burning, water without drowning. Generations passed, yet his tale remained, woven into songs sung to children. Sailors whispered his name when storms calmed, believing the flame still heard them. And in the abyss, the eternal flame burned on, bright as the day he saw it. The guardians circled, their forms endless, keeping the balance Poseidon once vowed. And somewhere, in the rhythm of waves and the silence of fire, his promise lived. The boy had become more than a seeker, more than a keeper. He was now a story, eternal as the flame, carried on by those who remembered. And when the sea glowed faintly blue at dusk, villagers would whisper, "The abyss, eternal flame of Poseidon still breathes, and it waits."